Welcome to Roadmap, how to take 3 listings a week until you're ready for more. Each week we interview a great agent who is consistently taking 2, 3, 4 listings each week. And we have an exciting guest today, more like 7 or 8 a week. We encourage you to take notes, apply as much of their knowledge as quickly as you can, and then use the copycat principle. If you're watching on Vulcan 7 or on the Lead Gen Facebook group, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions during the broadcast. So get those questions in early, folks. Type them in early. Let me introduce my co-host from San Diego, Carly Hathaway. That's carlyhathaway.com, of course. Hi, Carly. How is the real estate business?
Hi, Ren. Real estate business is awesome as usual. You know, it's definitely a seller's market. Great time to be a listing agent. Everything's going awesome.
Good. Sign them up.
Yep.
Before I introduce our guest today, I want to remind everyone that we are also simulcasting the show on the private Lead Gen group on Facebook. They have 49,000 members, so we have a large audience there today as well. And we'll be pausing for a commercial message during the show as a thank you to the Lead Gen folks. Let's welcome our guest today from beautiful, it's probably warm there, Myrtle Beach, Greg Sisson.
Hey, Ren.
Yeah, and you only hear 2 of us clapping because all the people watching, we don't turn on the applause for that, but we'll have to get some applause to go with it.
Maybe you can do that for me. Do that at the end for me, would you, Ren?
There we go. There we go. Let them loose. Let them rip. Good deal.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing really good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Carly.
Yeah.
So Myrtle Beach is a popular place to own a second home. Some people live there as their first home, or they have a second home and then it becomes the first home over time. So, referrals are a big piece. So we want to make sure people know how to reach you and what's the best way for them to reach you to send, and maybe they should buy something this year.
Well, the best way to get me is if you've got a referral or you just want to communicate it through an email is greg@gregsisson.com, GREGSISSON. So greg@gregsisson.com, or they can call me at 843-251-2693.
Great. And I assume if they go to gregsisson.com, they'll learn a lot too.
Yes.
So to see your whole setup and everything you've got going on there. Perfect. That's a wonderful thing. So folks, it's time to get that second home.
That's right.
Yeah, a lot of nonstop flights to Myrtle Beach these days. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They opened one up yesterday. I just heard today to Nashville. Direct flight just opened up yesterday.
Nice. Is it an open cockpit with a scarf and goggles, or is it just teasing?
I'll let you know.
Just kidding. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, because that's a big destination too. So you can go listen to some country music and then head over to Myrtle Beach just after.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. Now, you've been doing this a while.
Yes. This is my 20th year in real estate, started in 97. And we didn't talk about this, but you probably don't know this. My background, coming from a real estate background, my father was in real estate here in Myrtle Beach and worked for Floyd Wickman. And I wanted to bring that up. He's one of Mike Ferry's competitors from a long time ago. So my dad was a speaker, trainer, real estate teacher for about 18, 20 years. So I grew up in that world.
I never knew that. Wow. That's
You
pretty
have a lot of knowledge that you'll be able to share with us today.
Yeah, that's where we want to go. We want to go in deep. So because, 20 years ago, you probably called your first expired listing or first for sale owner. Would that be close to correct?
That's pretty close. Yeah. I got turned loose with cold calling when I first got into business. I didn't do a lot of expires my first year or two. I basically only did cold calling.
Wow. So you've got a treasure trove of things that if you look in there, we could pick out 4, 5, 6, 7 of them that they could take and implement, and then we could share it on this show that, people could write down some things and go, okay, something that would help them take an extra couple listings, maybe even one a week more than they were doing, depending on how good they are. So it'd be fun.
We talked, just thinking about this before, how do we go from 2 to 3 listings a month, maybe in getting that extra listing a week?
Yeah.
And if we're ready to jump right in, I wrote down 3 things.
Oh, let me do one more thing. Can we tell them about what's going on with you and your coach? May I do that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Greg, his coach. I mean, how many listings have you taken since the beginning of the year? We have January, February, a little bit of March. How many have you taken so far this year?
Took 16 in January, 24 in February, and I'm at 9 month to date, which I'm behind on what you're about to talk about.
Okay. So 49 listings so far, 49 listings taken, folks.
Yes.
40. So is this a guy that can take one a day, for every day of the month, take a listing? Obviously he comes pretty close every month.
Yeah.
24 out of 28. So there were 28 days in February and you took 24 listings.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a reasonable request from your coach.
Amazing.
Yeah, we were when we finished the call, it was kind of near the end. Kevin's like, why don't you just count the days in the month, and that's how many listings you should have. So we'll talk next week. Bye. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't agree to that.
So your goal is 30 listings a month.
My goal in March was 25 before that phone call, and when he hung up, it's 31. Now,
nice.
Honestly, like 31 is a huge stretch for me. 20 is kind of the standard. That's my goal. Typically, this month in March, I went for 25. So yeah, 31, would be a massive month for me. 25, 26, the most I've ever done in a month.
Yeah, sleep is overrated. You can do that later.
Yeah, true.
So 31 listings a month. That would be amazing. That's the goal. How are you going to do it? Just tell us. We want to know your secrets.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you got to do things differently in your activities if you're going to get a different result. One of the things I'm doing, and I've started doing in January is spending an hour on a Saturday, which I'm that guy that worked Monday through Friday, really my whole career. The Saturday morning, sit at the dining room table for an hour. I'm in strategic, taking my hottest leads or the people that I couldn't reach all week. And there's always 10 to 20 good leads that maybe you talk to and you just can't get them, or maybe a hot expired. Just sit down and invest 45 minutes to an hour on a Saturday. And I'm setting one appointment virtually every Saturday minimum.
So it's a real short period of time on Saturday. You're only spending 45 minutes to an hour and you're getting one appointment. So that means you're setting 4 appointments a month just from that 45 minutes to an hour on Saturday.
Yes. Yeah.
That by itself is huge because that is a time people will pick up the phone.
That's the thing. And you can, for me personally, I don't do it in the evening, but that's something you got to change it up. If you call from 6 to 7 at night, once or twice a week, if your schedule allows or you're willing to do that, you're going to get the people that aren't picking up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll switch phones. I'll grab my wife's phone on Saturday morning because they've seen my number pop up. You got to change it up because people are screening their calls. They're tired of that realtor calling. So I'll use my wife's phone and get somebody that won't pick up on mine.
That's a great idea.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because that is a dramatic point, and it's a secret that a lot of people don't know. Because for many years, I would call, and people would recognize my number. And if you use a different phone. But another one that worked really well was to use a cell phone on an area code in a major city about 50 to 80 miles away.
Yeah.
Because people go, oh, that must be Sally. Hello. Oh, it's not Sally. They would answer that nearby area code because a lot of times it was one of 3 people that they knew in the adjacent city. So using that separate cell phone, that is, so far, that's 2 powerful secret points because that, if you use that, you will prevail. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So great. You're taking an hour or so on Saturdays to make these calls. When you say hot leads, what are these hot leads? Is it an expired you've really been wanting to go after, or like who's on that hot?
So and you broke up a little there at the end. Who is the people I'm calling? It's the people that have expressed to me they want to sell. They're highly motivated. I've talked, these are the people that I've talked to already that I know I just need to have another conversation to set an appointment. So it could be any of my sources, an expired, a past client, a center of influence. I've got another database that I want to talk about later, SLD, that stands for Seller Lead Database. It could be, there's not a category or a certain source. It's just whoever is closest to setting an appointment and getting a listing from.
Okay. Got it. So typically you normally work Monday through Friday. Can you walk us through your schedule?
Yes.
From morning to night? Like, do you
Carly, I'm sorry. You froze up there for me.
Missed the last part of your sentence, Carly.
Oh, can you just walk us through a typical day of what time you start, what time you get on the phones, all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
one of the 5 things, we talked about, Ren, and maybe some things to share with people that really propel your morning or your day and your prospecting and how to take more listings is the morning routine. So, Carly, that's a great question. I always say that the morning starts the night before. It's not an original thought, but it truly does. So for me, my bag is in the car for the gym the next morning. I get up, I can just get out to the car and go to the gym, then get to the office. Usually I'm at the office by 7:15, 7:30, and I'm definitely on the phone no later than 8 o'clock. And then I go straight through. We have a little 15-minute huddle with my team, my buyer team, and we do that between 8:45 and 9. Then I'm back on the phones from 9 to 11.
Okay. And do you have a list of who you're calling first thing? Like, do you try to get expireds first, or who do you call first?
Yes. Definitely expireds are first. It's real competitive in my market, probably like most markets. And expireds are not that many right now. So definitely expireds first. And I typically are done with them by 8:20. And for about the next 20, 25 minutes before my huddle, I'm going to call my hottest leads at that time. That I can set an appointment with, and then at 9 o'clock, I jump onto all the other things that I'm going after.
And do you use scripts? What do you say?
Yeah, I say what's behind you. I'm a Mike Ferry. I can see Mike.
I forgot those were there.
Yeah, but I've had the good fortune of being exposed to Mike Ferry, the Mike Ferry organization since '99, and so I'm doing the Mike Ferry scripts. Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Can you give us any tips, like when people are just really trying to get off the phone with you, you're already the 10th agent that has called and they just do not want to talk to you. Can you give us any little tidbits of how to overcome that?
Oh boy, that's a good one. So I'm like the 10th person. Wow. If they're still on the phone with me, that's a good thing after 10.
Okay.
I think one of the questions I could ask, and I can sense, you can hear the agitation in their voice almost, right? When you're number 10, 12, whatever. So I think you have to kind of try to be with them in that moment and say, look, I know people are blowing up your phone. I just had to ask you, I noticed you were on the market and it failed to sell. If you had an offer close or near to full price, how would you respond? Because a lot of times they're going to say, we're not selling. I'm not going to put it back on the market. I try to acknowledge that I know you're frustrated. I'm so sorry you're getting blown up. However, and then just redirect and go right into the motivation of the question.
Okay.
I think that's important. Yeah.
So you're saying, I know people are blowing up your phone, and I know that must be frustrating, but if you had an offer pretty close to full price, how would you respond? That's what you say.
Yeah. I mean, that just came out now. I mean, there's probably other things I could say to that as well, but yeah, I mean, what I'm doing is I'm trying to get back to the real reason we're calling. I mean, and I know, is there, if you had an offer today and you could have it closed in 30 to 40 days, would that pose a problem for you and your family? Anything to kind of get to the root of it again would be good.
That's great advice.
To recognize is that at that moment, everybody else has given up. I mean, why not just keep asking questions, trying to get that edge in there, because all the other guys and gals, if they're getting yelled at or they're going to hang up. So just staying with them as much as you can is important.
Yeah.
They get 30, let's say they get 37 calls and you're one of them and you set a lot of appointments. What I noticed in my market is they'd get 35, 40 calls and it was the same 4 or 5 people that ended up getting through every time.
Yeah.
What is it that you learn over time that allows you to get through most of the time when all the other ones crash and burn? Yeah. Is it no fear of rejection? Is it the empathy piece? Is it, what would you tell somebody to work on right out of the gate to improve, to get through more often?
Yeah. Boy, that's a great question. I mean, it is some battle scars. I mean, the reality is if you're first time calling and you've got 30 people calling at the same time, just understanding it's going to take a little time. So putting on the gear. The battle gear comes in the form of skills, Ren, you know that. So the more skilled you are, the more you're practicing, the more contacts you're making outside. I mean, expireds is one way. It's a great method.
Yeah.
There's dozens of other sources. So don't beat yourself up every day if you're not getting through right away. So I guess to answer the question is, it takes time, build your skill level, and have lots of sources. That's one thing I've learned is you've got to have multiple streams of opportunities, or else what happens when the expireds completely go away and you're the best expired listing agent in the town, but there's no expireds? Many people can relate to that right now.
Yeah. So would it almost be better if somebody wanted to get good in that area to start the shallow end of the pool, perhaps working old expireds? Because they're friendly and nobody else is calling. I would think you could get 2 listings a month doing that, wouldn't you?
Ren, I think you're right. In fact, like for us, we've gone back and looked at 13 and 14 when the market was starting to warm up again, and you can go back and pull those expireds, and I get my staff, or you could do it yourself and find out if that like say you've got 150 of those. You can go back in the MLS and see if they're active, don't call them. If they sold, don't call them. But if there's no record of them coming back on, you may have 50 old expireds from 14, and guess how easy that script is. Hey, Mr. and Miss Seller, I noticed your property was off the market 4 years ago. Did you realize that the market statistics say that your home is worth about 12 to 14% more than it was then? When can I come out and show you that information? I mean, that is a gold mine, I think, the old expireds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Good. So I'm hearing that practicing the scripts and really having strong skills is what's going to be really key, especially for the newer people trying this or newer agents.
Yeah, the question again cut off, Carly. I didn't hear the last part. I'm sorry.
I just said it seems like you're saying skills and really, really practicing the scripts is what's going to help the newer agents
100%.
in calling. Can you? Yeah.
If I could also mention, somebody had asked me at a Mike Ferry retreat a long time ago, and it goes along with your point there about skills. Greg, they're a brand new agent. How do I become a great listing agent? How do I take more listings? I said, you've got to go to undergrad. You got to go to undergrad. Here's what I meant by that. My first 3 years in real estate, I had the good fortune of working with Greg Harrelson for many years. And, we prospected side by side for many years. And for 3 straight years, I made 60 contacts minimum per day. Which doesn't sound like it's not a ton, but that was without a dialer. We double dialed, had 2 phones, double headset. And 90% of that was cold call. Maybe 40 to 50 were cold calls, and the rest were for sale by owners. Now, here's what I'm telling you this. When you have 60 conversations, real estate conversations every single day, calling neighbors, you're in the mode of having the real estate conversation. You do that for 3 years, you've got an undergrad. You've heard it all. You've heard all the same responses. It's natural for you to go and your scripts. Until you become that comfortable where wake me up at 2 a.m, I can make a cold call or an expired. It has to be that ingrained and internalized. So that's important for people, the new agents, to make a lot of contacts. I mean, I don't think you can underestimate just being in the game and making a ton of contacts to get an education in the real estate conversation.
What do they call that? Unconscious competence.
There you go. Exactly.
It comes out. You don't know what you're going to say, but some part of you knows what you're going to say.
That's definitely.
SLD, Seller Lead Database.
So one of the things we did a long time ago, and things have changed, right, with email and texting, so years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, we started collecting people's email addresses and created newsletters and things we send out. Now, everybody does that now, and I realize that. But I've got probably about 12,000 people in my database from the last 10 to 12 years that I either talked to or they signed up for my newsletters. And so these people are getting communication from me 2 to 3 times a month through email. I wrote down 15 to 20% of my business comes from this database where, hey, Greg, it's Mary Lou from New Jersey. We've been getting your emails for 5 years. We're finally ready to sell the condo. Would you give me a call back? I mean, that's 2 to 3 of those a month, every single month, from just consistently sending information out in the form of video or text. So this is not an overnight thing, but if whatever your database is, if you'll send quality content to them that's relevant about the marketplace and be consistent, it will eventually create a return for you. That's what we call the SLD.
I like it.
Other than people you know and your past clients, how are you adding to that database? How do you add a certain number of people every week, every month?
Yes.
And because newer agents don't have that many people and they can't wait to create past clients fast enough, how can they add to their database?
So every single if you're making 10 contacts a day or 50 contacts a day, every single person, you can get them an email. You get their email address. Now, I think there's a shift happening that I know that there's text messages, getting people's cell phone. And I don't know when this is coming. It's already out probably. But I think there's going to be a greater opening when I can send messages and market updates through texting. I'm not doing that yet. But just to answer your question, every person you talk to, get their email address. Yeah. Mr. Smith, I send a very simple, brief market update specific to your neighborhood, your area, your home, etc. You mind if I send that to you each month to keep you up to date on the marketplace? If you ever need any help, throw me in the file, something like that.
Perfect. And how often are you reaching out or sending them this information?
So I send 2 informational video emails per month. And then I send 1 text email per month that just has the market update, the market statistics, what I'd sold that month, and my commentary on the marketplace.
Some good value then. So you're really sending a lot of value. No apple pie recipes here. Huh?
Yeah. And no pictures of me and my dog.
No pictures of you and your dog. Just, a video of you and your dog. That's fine.
Got it.
Maybe.
So, when I look at this, now going way back, you and Greg Harrelson, you're making 60 calls a day and you're a newer agent. What do you say to somebody who's watching this and going, I don't know that I could make 60 calls a day. I don't know that I could make 40 calls a day. What do you say to them? How did you get your head wrapped around the idea of making that many calls so early in the game?
And it was 60 contacts, right? So you probably had to dial.
Contacts. Yeah, I don't mean dials.
We probably had to dial 180, 100, 200 homes. Great question. I had the good fortune of being around. My father told me, Greg, listings are the name of the game. They always have been. They always will. I was a weird one because it was normal. I got the connection between making contacts, prospecting, and getting listings. That's just what you had to do to get listings. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And the reality is there's all kinds of magic pills, right? You can get listings from doing this, doing that. It's a sales business. I'm totally been convinced of that my whole career and always will be, that it's a contact sport. And until you wrap your head around, you can take two listings a month and probably not have to prospect. But if you want to take 6, 8, 10, 12, 20 listings a month, you're going to be prospecting.
31?
31. Exactly. Thank you.
So maybe it's just maybe you just have to go up to 80 contacts. I almost wonder if that isn't the magic answer, is 60 contacts a day. Calla Riccardi, who we interviewed a few weeks earlier, she makes 57 contacts a day for years. That must be the magic answer, or one of them.
Yeah.
I wrote down, increase contacts, increase skills, and increase enthusiasm.
Okay. Talk about that.
I talked about that with my team recently, and the buyers or the sellers that we're in front of, they care about themselves, not us. So we're an actor. We have to put on, as my dad said in the 80s, it's showtime. And so I have I'm not enthusiastic. Well, you have to become enthusiastic for that little 5 minutes you're with someone or 1 minute on the phone. You owe them that. Or at least, if you want to get the great results, you better have enthusiasm. So I think that gets underestimated. I think that's a skill that people can focus on and think about. And it's not fake or over the top, but be excited, repeat, approve, all the things Mike in our scripts teach us. That's part of the enthusiasm is acknowledging them. Good for you. I appreciate you telling me that.
What do they call that? It's showtime.
It's showtime. That sums it up.
Good. Yeah. Let's go into some Q&A. Let's get some Q&A, if that'll work for everybody. Because you have, now I'm looking at there are 5 or 6 questions we answered as this went along. Jeff Colin wants to know, who are you coaching with?
Mike Ferry's the company, and Kevin Eldred's my coach right now.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. And we answered what time you're calling. We just answered about dials versus calls. What do you say, are you doing for sale by owners, and what do you say to get past the fact that they want to save the money?
Yeah. I got to tell you, and I'm making a confession, I'm not calling for sale by owners right now. One of the things I'm the only person taking listings on my team, and the amount of listing opportunities I have right now for sale by owners aren't one of them. And that's something I'm working on, is adding another listing person.
Where'd our audio?
There you go.
Can we get into like your mindset a little bit? And hello?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can we get into mindset a little bit and how, what?
Oh, we lost her again.
Yeah.
Jordan O'Hay wants to know, what do you consider cold calling?
Yeah, I mean, a cold call is a just sold call. It's literally like, hey, I just sold another home, or another home just sold down the street on Primrose Lane. We know when someone sells a home, usually 2 more sell right away. Just wondering, when do you plan on moving? So it's a totally cold call. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Melissa wants to know, well, this is, she's looking for somebody to shadow. Melissa, send me an email if you would, and we'll find you somebody to shadow. Okay, good. Carly, are you back? Go ahead.
I don't know. Can you guys hear me? I didn't even know I got lost.
It just crashes every so often. Move your router.
So my kind of question was, you want to stay positive and energetic when you're on the phone with them. How do you keep that mindset? How do you stay positive if you're getting beat up all day?
Yeah, it comes back, Carly. Great question. It comes back to that morning routine. We kind of talked about that. It has to be media free in the morning. What are you listening to? When you're at the gym, if that's what you do, what's in your earbuds, right? What are you doing? What are you listening to? I mean, I don't have any news, any media in the mornings. So it's just, who do you hang out with? What are you reading? What are you focused on? What are you listening to in the car on the way to work? So I think all of that's important to protect that mindset. And the other thing, frankly, is if you know where you're going and your goals, the prospecting is the bridge to get you from here to where your goals are. And I think you have to just put the connection there and say, hey, they don't know me. I'm never going to see that person. So if they were a jerk, it's meaningless,
Yeah. Michael Higdon, what is he down in Louisville, Kentucky, around there? He wants to know, are you still doing business with estates, probate, dead people? You have a house to sell.
Yes.
Let's just spit it out.
Yeah, usually not with the deceased specifically, Ren, but their representatives, yes.
So you are doing, and you want to know how much of your business that makes up. I guess at one time you must have been doing a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, small percentage right now, but probably, 10, 15%.
Okay. So you're calling people where it comes up at the courthouse and following that, or are you also working probate attorneys, people that settle estates? Are you doing both? You doing both? You do both. Okay. So you're calling through and staying in touch with a list of 20, 30, 40 attorneys doing probate work, and you're looking at that courthouse list once a month,
right?
And making those calls. Good.
Yeah.
Is that an extra listing a month?
There you go. Yeah.
You're going to need it this month.
Yeah, I'm going to need a lot more than that.
If you're here's a good answer, and I'm going to enjoy this one. Bill Diambro, if you're taking 20 listings a month, Bill, he's going to take 31. How do you service them? Getting them on the MLS open houses marketing follow-up, like how do you service them? That's a great question. If you're busy fishing, who's filleting the fish and cooking the fish?
That's a great question. I've actually got two gals in my staff that are on the listing side of the business. So I've got what I call our listing coordinator, and then I've got a client care coordinator. We really focus on customer service. I know everybody says that, but I probably am slightly overstaffed in that area, Ren. So got the listing coordinator, gets it in. She coordinates with all the photographs and gets it in the listing. And then my other girl, Jessica, follows up with all the feedback. She is talking to my sellers constantly. So she is very much in communication with my sellers.
Well, if you're slightly overstaffed, that doesn't hurt because you can stand at the river and keep fishing and keep bringing those fish in. You need 31 fish. Bobby Johnson wants to know, what's your system for setting seller expectations from the start of the relationship? You know how people don't set those and how their sellers calling every day at random times. How do you set those?
That's a great question too. I mean, I think what you do is when you take the listing, that's when you set the expectations after the signature is there, I believe, and let them know. I think it's important to ask the seller, Mr. Miss Seller, what's the best way for us to communicate with you? Would you like a text, an email, or a phone call weekly to give you an update? So put that on the seller. A lot of them want email, one may want a text, may want a phone call. So I think that's important. Put it on them and allow them to tell you how they want to be communicated with. But I think the expectation to tell them, my job is to go ahead and get out there and market and find a buyer for your property. My assistant, Jessica, is going to monitor that feedback, communicate with you, help make suggestions along with me if we need to make any adjustments. So you want to go ahead and set that future pacing that, hey, if the market is not responding in the first 30 to 40 days, we need to possibly look at an adjustment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Benjamin wants to know what your definition of a contact is. What do you consider making a contact? Not just emailing them. What's the definition of a contact?
Talking to a decision maker.
Okay.
Someone that can make the decision on the phone.
Okay. Well, now a lot of times when we call Sphere, you know them, they know you. You leave a meaningful message. Do you?
Absolutely.
Do you count that at all, or?
I do. I count a contact if I'm leave a message for a good past client or Sphere. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Because people, they're working with that little definition thing. Because, it's that 2-year-old that answers, hello, they.
Yeah, I don't think that one counts.
Not a contact.
I wanted to mention something, Ren, that we talked about maybe a nugget or two that I'm doing I think it's been a huge help for me in taking more listings. Mm-hmm. Has anybody out there watching, and I know I can't hear you, but has anybody out there ever sat at a table and they want to list with you, but they need about 3 weeks, and maybe they need 30 days. They're going to fix the fence. They're going to paint the front door. They're going to steam clean the carpets, maybe replace something. So, and many of you may be doing this, but I'm getting a signature then, and I'm getting them to sign an addendum to hold it off the MLS,
mm-hmm.
and do a pre-marketing campaign, and that's what I call it. And Zillow allows you to do a coming soon. Okay.
Well, and some MLSs have that officially now too.
Okay, do they? Okay, yeah. So in the MLS.
Depends on your market. Coming soon is in our market as an official field.
On the MLS, okay.
Yes.
So take advantage of that, because you walk out of that listing, okay, I'll call you in 3 weeks and you get the house ready and I'll come back and list it. Well, sorry, my neighbor is a realtor and he came over and listed the house. Take the listing.
If anybody that does not get a signature then is crazy because it's too risky. There could be too many conversations in that 2-3 weeks.
That's right.
You're absolutely right.
I've got about 12 to 15 coming soons at all time. Just, it seems to be in our market. We're getting a lot of those.
That's a great piece of advice. I think that's really smart.
It is. Amin Dahani wants to know what listing appointments to listings taken. What's that? What's your batting average?
I'm right at 80%. I think it's like 81% right now.
81%. Good. So I know you've got a lot you want to get done between now and the 31st.
Yes.
So, forget the sleep. It's going to be fun. This has been a great show. There's a long list of ideas that they can implement right now. And thank you for these.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I need to read a little piece as a thank you because we have lots and lots and lots of viewers on Lead Gen. And I want to thank them for doing the simulcast. If you want to get involved with them, they have 49,000 members. They are found at facebook.com/groups/got objections. Thank you, Aaron Wittenstein, for doing that, and your expiredmasteryelite.com program. And finally, if you're watching on Facebook and you're not involved with Vulcan 7, heaven forbid, go to vulcan7.com/leadgen for a special deal. And then the most important thing, if you have made your 6 hours of calls like Greg, because he needs it this month, treat yourself, spoil yourself, do something great. My best advice, of course, is to go and get some delicious Grater's mint chocolate chip and a big spoon and just enjoy yourself. Have a few bites and then go on with the rest of the day. It'll make those Saturday morning 45 minutes to an hour calls to take that extra listing. You'll have a smile on your face. You'll have that energy and enthusiasm that Greg's talking about.
Yes.
You agree, Carly?
Yes, definitely.
E&E, energy and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Good. I love it.
Thanks for having me, Ren.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you so much,
This
Greg.
was
I
a
think
trip.
we all
I'm
got a
excited
lot out
about
of this call.
31. 31.
Thank you so much, Greg.
All right. See y'all.
See everybody then. Nigel. Whoa! I knocked over the light.